And we are back with the recent toll rebate program initiated by the MTA. Certain Bronx neighborhoods, including Riverdale, Woodlawn, Wakefield, and Eastchester, found themselves omitted from the list of eligible zip codes. Our next guest has been vocal about addressing this oversight, ensuring the Bronx residents are not excluded from the benefits of the toll rebate program. Joining me now is the New York City Assembly Member of the 81st Assembly District, Jeffrey Dinowitz, and I must say again, it's great to see you after such a long time.
It's great to be here.
Yes, glad to have you. And, you know, having this conversation is important because there's so many people who are concerned about congestion pricing already, and then more particularly the neighborhoods that are being affected right now and being omitted off the list. So talk to us about where we are right now.
They were actually never omitted. There was when the notice went out, the MTA made a mistake and they left out a few of the zip codes, ironically including 2 of the zip codes in my district. And why is that ironic? Because this was my program. About 5 years ago, when we were negotiating the budget, it occurred to me, all of a sudden a light lit up in my head, and I said, you know what, people in my district and the Bronx are sick and tired of having to pay a toll on that little teeny tiny bridge that goes over from Riverdale to Inwood. And so one of the things I said I would like to see in the budget is a program that would eliminate the toll there for Bronx residents. Most of the people who drive over the bridge are from Westchester or Connecticut, and honestly, I wasn't so concerned about them. But I said, why should people in the Bronx have to pay that toll? And I was able to negotiate to get that into the budget, thankfully with the support of Speaker Carl Hastie, and it was going to take effect in 2020, in June, and the way it would have worked, and the way it does work now, is you drive over the bridge, they charge your Easy Pass account, and then they rebate it instantly. The reason why it was delayed was because of COVID, because the funding source for this program, which probably cost around $8 million a year, every year, was something called the Attleboro Transit Fund, and that money comes from a surcharge on, I guess, some of the Uber and Lyft rides in Manhattan. But the money dried up because of COVID. Nobody was going into Manhattan. And so the program was delayed, but we announced at the beginning of the year that it's going to take effect, and it did take effect on February 3rd. And the MTA sent out a notice to everybody in the Bronx who is a Bronx resident, who has a car registered in the Bronx, and who has an Easy Pass account with money in it. And that's a whole lot of people. When they initially sent out the money, for some reason, I can't even explain why, some zip codes were omitted. It was a mistake, but that was quickly handled by them. So most people automatically got the rebates, and some people actually had to go on the computer on their Easy Pass account to sign up. People like me, because my license plate changes, my number changes every 2 years, but I never made a habit of letting Easy Pass know about it, because who thinks about that? So some people actually had to go online to register for it, but they get the same thing. So now, when we go over the Henry Hudson Bridge, it's I think it charges $3.18, and it's instantaneously the $3.18 is credited against your account. So in essence, it's free, but we don't say it's free because essentially it's a 100% instant rebate, and it's only for Bronx people.
Only for the Bronx.
Only for the Bronx.
I like that. I like that. Listen, you talk about quickly. How quickly was the phone ringing when this went down?
Well, when we were supposed to get it initially, of course, we got a lot of calls on it, but then it was delayed, and it was embarrassing to talk about why it was delayed. But I mean, you can't blame anybody else but the pandemic. But once it happened, I have gotten so many nice emails or phone calls, or people have stopped me in the street all the time, and they say thank you for the thank you for the bridge, thank you for the toll, and whatever. I think people are very pleased, because think about it: if you use the bridge every day, $3.18 twice is $6.36 times 5 days in a week. That's over $30. That's several. It's more than $30. And if you do it all year round, that's about $1,500. There are some people who actually use the bridge twice a day if they're bringing their child to school, bring them there, come back, pick them up, come back. They could be saving $3,000 a year. Now, not everybody uses the bridge. I don't use the bridge very often myself, because I don't go into Manhattan all that often. And the other good thing about this rebate is that there were many people who would avoid the toll by driving into Kingsbridge and Inwood rather than go over the bridge because they didn't want to pay the toll. And what did that mean? It meant more traffic there, more pollution there, and so we're helping those neighborhoods as well. But people throughout the Bronx use the bridge. People, let's say from Co-op City, who want to drive to the west side, many of them will cut across the Bronx and go on the Henry Hudson Parkway, and they'll use the Henry Hudson Bridge.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir. So, I mean, while I've been Bronx the last 30 years in terms of being on television, grew up on 157th Riverside Drive, and I would take the Henry Hudson right up to come to work, and I knew that I didn't want to pay the toll. And so I'd go right over there, and I would create more traffic. But, I mean, having something like this would definitely benefit the residents of the Bronx, and at the same time, give them some much needed relief. How long did it take to get rectified?
Oh, you mean the wrong zip codes?
Yeah.
Oh, a few days. I mean, no one lost out on that because it was rectified before the program took effect on February 3rd.
Right.
So it was, but people were calling, what about us? Why are we being left out? Like it was a plot or something, and it was a mistake on the part of the MTA, but they quickly fixed it. They sent out the original notices to I don't know how many people, but you got to figure the Bronx has 1.4 million people. A few 100,000 of those people may have cars, so a lot of people got the notice. And the people who may use the bridge the most are probably concentrated in my district, but it's not just for my district. But if you, for example, lived on 157th Street still and you came up to the Bronx, you wouldn't benefit.
Right.
Because
Right.
you weren't a Bronxite.
I know that's what happens when you're not a Bronxite. You miss
Exactly.
out, right?
Exactly. I mean, so many other things. I feel the Bronx kind of gets the short end of the stick, but here's something where people can benefit, and this is money in people's pockets, especially at a time when so many people really need it.
Right. What are you hearing on your end with regards to congestion pricing right there in New York City, and that toll?
That's going to be a heavy toll. I mean, I was never a huge fan of congestion pricing, to say the least. I do like the fact that it's going to generate allegedly $1 billion a year for the MTA, and which is desperately needed. And that $1 billion actually is multiplied in terms of their ability to borrow money, which is how they finance capital projects, and more buses, fix rails, get new trains, fix the signals. There's they have tremendous needs. Do I think it's going to clear up traffic in Manhattan? Not really.
Right.
I hope so, but I don't believe that. But it's a heavy toll, and I would advise people, if they could avoid it, not to go below 60th Street. But for some people, that's very hard.
Right. Well, if you're driving, you definitely want to avoid it if you don't want to pay, and if you do pay, then you just have to know that it's going to be a pretty hefty fee there to get that.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if you're coming, say, from my area, you're going to I shouldn't say a show, that's below 60th Street. But if you're going to a doctor, let's say New York Presbyterian Hospital, for example, medical appointments, maybe doing some shopping. I mean, Fairways, I don't think is there anymore, but when Fairway was there, most people would take the bridge and pay the toll because it's just so much more convenient. So they're going to save. But as far as the congestion pricing end, that's going to be a hardship on a lot of people. And I was hoping that when they finalized all the details, that they would have at least lowered the $15 fee to, say, $10. Even that's a lot of money, but it would have been much more bearable for a lot of people.
Definitely, indeed. Let me get your take as to what's happening in your district. I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff. Talk about what's going on real quickly before we go on about what's happening in the district.
Oh, there's so many things happening. Right now I'm working hard with the state budget. I'm trying to get money pumped into the amalgamated houses, which is facing an enormous fiscal crisis. And the amalgamated houses, which it's almost 100 years old, some of the buildings, at least that's when it was started, it was built by unions. And it's one of the most well-regarded, well-known such developments in the country, certainly in the state, but they have very difficult fiscal times. In the Assembly, what we call the one-house budget resolution, I was able to get a commitment of $50 million for them, but that's not real money yet.
Right.
We have to get the Senate and the governor to go along with that, or at least go along with something to help them out. And I've also been fighting for funding for Mitchell-Lamas in general. And I have several Mitchell alums in my district, including some that are having fiscal problems as well. Cannon Heights, Kingsbridge Arms, the Mitchell Alum in Woodlawn, just to name a few.
Right.
And that's something which is happening around the Bronx, Jamie Towers in the Soundview section, and other places. So we need to, if we're talking about we want to build more affordable housing, well, here we have affordable housing, and we have to maintain that affordable housing. So I'm hoping that the state budget helps us do that, but we got to get the governor and the Senate on board with that, or it's not going to happen.
Uphill battle.
Yep.
All right. Something. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Definitely. Come on back and talk to us again, okay?
Sure.
All righty. Listen, we want you to don't go anywhere. We got more coming up right after this.